wanyama kalo, wanyama kalo, tababa wali, tababa wali.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever on the planet that you're located, and welcome to Health Watch Thursdays at New Earth Health Food Store in East Legon, Ghana. I am Niara, your host for the evening, and the owner and founder of the Gourmet Vegan, a plant-based catering company. If you have not heard or had the pleasure of dining with the Gourmet Vegan, you don't know what you're missing. You can find us on Instagram at _Gourmet Vegan. You can find us on TikTok, or if you're local and would like to place an order, you can reach us at 053-235-1396. Looking for some vegan mac and cheese, some collard greens, some broccoli quiche, something savory, we got you covered. If you're looking for something sweet, we got you covered on that front as well. Banana pudding, we have a delicious pineapple mango cheesecake, and if you're looking for some peach cobbler, we got you covered. So now that we've got that out of the way, today we will be making almond not meatloaf. This is one of my favorite dishes. This is a raw food recipe. Now, raw foods are something that I love because you can really get creative with raw foods. Also, of course, it's much healthier for you because when you don't cook your food, you get more of the nutrients and minerals as a result of not cooking it. So let's go over some health benefits of consuming almonds. Almonds, of course, are high in protein, as are all nuts. It's high in phosphorus. Almonds are high in fiber, copper, magnesium, calcium, and vitamin E. Also, almonds are an antioxidant. They fight against cancer. They're good for the brain as well. So they really have a lot of nutritional benefit. You can do so many different things with almonds. You can make almond milk. You can, after you make the milk, you can use the pulp to make like an almond pate. You can make cookies from it. There's so many, it's such a versatile nut, so many things that you can do. Today, as I said, we're gonna be making almond not meatloaf, which is one of my favorite raw foods recipes. Of course, it consists of almonds. It consists of, we're using red onion. You don't have to use red onion. You can use yellow onion if you want. You can even use the spring onion, any type of onion that you have access to. Of course, we'll be using fresh garlic. Fresh garlic is always great for live recipes because it's very flavorful, and then also, garlic is very beneficial as well. We'll be topping the not meatloaf with some fresh parsley. We're gonna have a little bit of nutritional yeast. Then we're gonna top it with my homemade tomato paste. Now, I am a huge fan. For those of you who have seen me on the show, I've said it more than once. I'm a huge advocate for making everything fresh. So if I use milk, whether it's an almond milk, a cashew milk, an oat milk, a soy milk, I like to make my own milk. So I made my own tomato paste, which is very, very simple. All you have to do is de-seed your tomatoes, blend them up, and then you cook it on a low heat, add some cornstarch, some smoked paprika. I personally add some fresh basil to mine, a dash of salt and pepper, and then you have your own tomato paste. You can add different spices or seasonings to it if you want to, spice it up and do something different. If you want to put something, like some pepe in there to make your tomato paste spicy, then you can do that as well. And then last but definitely not least, we're going to have some fresh green pepper. I think some of you folks call it Scotch bonnet. Okay, so let's get started. We have soaked our almonds overnight. Whenever you're doing this recipe, it's imperative that you start off by first soaking your almonds. So that's a minimum of 8 hours, okay? So I soaked my almonds overnight. I strained them, strained all the water off, and then I put them on an oven pan or a tray on some parchment paper, and I let it dry naturally. If I want to sit it out in the sun, then I'll just cover it up with some cheesecloth or maybe some saran wrap, and then I put it in the sun so it dries naturally. So this is about a cup and a half of almonds, and it's going to yield enough for maybe about 4 people. So that should be enough for our audience today. So I'm just going to put my almonds inside of my food processor. Now there's a number of ways that I do this when I make it. Sometimes I'll use a seed grinder. I'm not using a seed grinder today because that can be a bit tedious. The food processor, of course, you can get more of the almonds inside of it, and it's much quicker than using the seed grinder. When I use a seed grinder, I can only grind up like about maybe 10, 15 maximum nuts at a time. So when I use my food processor, that gives me the ability to be able to grind up all of the nuts at the same time. Now okay, had to turn the power on. Okay, now the setting that I'm going to use for this is the puree. There are different settings that you'll have on your food processor, the chop, the puree, the pulse. So I use puree because I want to get it really, really fine, because I wanted the texture of like if you were to be, making like a ground beef. So I want it to be like, ground. That's the type of texture that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to puree these. I just want to prepare you guys. It's going to be really loud, so I don't want to startle you. Okay, so it's not quite ready, but what you're looking for is the almonds are going to start to form, right? And it's going to feel like sticky, so that's how you'll know when it's you're ready to remove the almonds. So I'm going to puree it some more because it's not quite ready. And you may just have to periodically just like scrape the sides of your food processor. Another thing too, you want to make sure when you're making this recipe that your almonds are completely dry, because if not, then it'll change the consistency and the texture of it. So you want to make sure that your almonds are completely dry when you're doing it. I'm going to give this another spin. also real quick, you want to make sure that you're keeping a close eye on this because it can go from this into nut butter, and that's not what you want, okay? So you have to be really conscientious of it and, you know, make sure that you're checking it to make sure that you're not making nut butter. Okay, we're almost there. For those of you who have ever made nut milk, when you get the pulp, right, this is like the consistency that you want for the almond loaf, the same type of consistency of the pulp when you make the milk, okay? So that's what you're looking for. You don't want it to be real grainy, and you don't want it to like, you know, like it's falling apart. When you take it, when you move it from the food processor, it should be able to form like an actual loaf. Okay, so my almonds should be ready now, and they are. This is exactly the consistency that you want it to be. So if you guys can see this, okay, you see how it's formed together and it's thick. This is the consistency that you want for your almonds to be. So I'm going to just remove this from the food processor and put it in this container. You see, if your almonds are sticking to the spoon like this, then that's exactly what you want, okay? Because that means that it's going to bind together as a loaf, to form a loaf, okay? How many of you guys have had raw vegan food before? You have, okay. Yeah, about, I would say, 4 years into my plant-based journey, I became a raw food vegan. And I got really, really creative. I used to make stuff like sun-dried tomato burgers. And it's interesting because a lot of times people transition to a raw food diet because they're trying to lose weight. But surprisingly, you can actually gain much more weight eating a raw food diet. One of the reasons is because many raw recipes require nuts and seeds, which are very fattening. It's a healthy fat, but nevertheless, you know, it's fattening. So don't be fooled into thinking just because, you know, you're eating raw foods that, you know, you're not going to gain a lot of weight. You absolutely can. But yeah, one of the reasons why I stopped eating raw food is because, you know, I started having children, and raw food veganism can be very expensive. You know, as I said, it requires a lot of nuts and seeds, and I don't care where you live in the world, nuts are expensive. You know, whether it's here in Ghana, whether it's in the US. I used to live in Israel, nuts are expensive there. Wherever you go, everywhere that I vacation, you know, nuts are expensive. So it can, you know, really hit your pocketbook, especially if you're trying to, you know, make all these niche recipes like, you know, raw cheesecakes and stuff like that. All the more reason to start growing your own almonds or cashews. Okay, so we have our nuts. They've been pureed, right, and they're ready. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chop up a little of this red onion. And as I said, you don't have to use red onion. You can use yellow onion. You can use spring onion if you wish. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put it along with the fresh garlic and the green pepper inside of my food processor because I want to get it really, really fine. So I'm putting in these are my pre-washed onion. And to clean my vegetables, I use activated charcoal. So I'm putting in and then you can add some fresh celery to this as well. It's really, really good with fresh celery. Okay, so I'm going to just chop these up using my food processor because, like I said, I want it to be really, really fine. And also, when you chop it up in the food processor, another benefit is the water in the vegetables are released, right? So that creates moisture and also helps in binding the loaf when you're mixing all of your ingredients together so that it actually forms like a loaf. One of the things about making, you know, raw food recipes also is it can be very time consuming and tedious. So something like this, right, that I used to do, which is a good thing, is instead of chopping up my vegetables like my onions, my peppers and garlic, every time I would make a dish, right, I would just chop it up in bulk and then I would freeze it. So that when I get ready to, you know, make a dish, all I have to do is pull it out of the freezer. And so that can be time saving. Okay. So now that I have my almonds and I have my vegetables mixed up, what I'm going to transfer the almonds back in here to mix it up to add the other ingredients. Okay, so I'm going to add, this is 1 teaspoon, and this is nutritional yeast, okay? 2 teaspoons. And this is pink Himalayan salt that I'm adding. You don't have to use pink Himalayan salt. You can use the salt of your preference. I personally prefer pink Himalayan salt. I love pink Himalayan salt. So that's the only type of salt that I cook with. So this is a teaspoon measurement. And I'm gonna start off with about 3/4 of a teaspoon because I don't want it to be too salty. So I'm gonna start off with that and then check it and see where it is, and then see if I need to add some more, okay? So then here we get to the messy part. But you see how it's forming, okay? So that's what you're looking for. And you wanna make sure, right, that when you're mixing it, you wanna get all of the ingredients in there. So run it through your fingers, okay? And if you're squeamish about doing stuff like this, then you can just, you know, put on some gloves. Don't worry, y'all, I'll wash my hands and I'm clean, so. You want to mix it in there really, really, really good. Get all of those ingredients all throughout your loaf. Okay. So now I'm going to taste it to see where we're looking like, to see if I need to add a little more of the yeast or a little more of the salt. You can you smell the fresh vegetables? Oh my God, it smells so delicious. Especially the garlic. I love the smell of fresh garlic when you're cooking. Now on your breath is a whole nother situation. You know what I'm saying? And that's also when you're cooking with raw dishes, you always will use like a lot of fresh garlic, which is a good thing, but it's a bad thing as well. Don't try to get a date, after eating some raw food. But it will definitely keep the vampires away. Okay, so let's see what we're tasting like. Eeny, teeny bit. That's great. I don't need any more salt. Wow. It's amazing. I haven't made this in quite some time. But as you know, I guess it's like riding a bicycle. Once you know it, you know it. Okay, so now we have our loaf ready. And we're going to transfer it to this dish. Now, this is a very small dish, okay? Normally, if I were making this for my family, it would be like 4 times this size. But if it's just for yourself, then this is more than enough, because you can get like about 3-4 slices, like large slices out of this size. And this is great, like, you want to eat it with a salad. Something I love eating it with is artichokes. That's another one of my favorite dishes. I make this really, really great artichoke salad with chickpeas and cherry tomatoes. And you just want to press it down like this with your hands, right? Or you can use a spatula. one of the things that you can do if you use a spatula, right, just rub just like a little bit of olive oil on the spatula to keep it from sticking. And, you know, it's really good to just, you know, go on like a raw foods diet for, you know, a week or two, you know, to cleanse your system. Because, you know, there's so many toxins in the world. You know, you go outside and you're breathing toxins, even if you're sitting in your house, you know, and you have the windows open. Your body is constantly being bombarded by some type of pathogen. So it's really good to periodically, right, to cleanse the system and, you know, eat a raw foods diet for a week, especially like with the change of seasons. And for those of you who are living in Babylon in the belly of the beast, you know, you really feel those change of seasons when you go like, you know, from winter to spring, right? And your immune system is weak. It's really, really good, you know, to go ahead and, you know, give your system a break. Because that's one of, especially if you're living in America, your system already needs a break because you're not even consuming real food. You know, you're eating Franken food. And so you definitely want to give your system a break periodically. I would suggest detoxing like every, you know, 4 months. Okay, so here's our loaf. As you can see, you know, you can turn it upside down and it's not moving. It's an actual loaf, okay? So I'm gonna cleanse my hands. Now, if I were home, I would lick all of this off my fingers, but I'm going to be a good girl and be proper in front of you all. I'm gonna rinse it off. But if you're at home, feel free to lick all this off your fingers because it is finger licking good, okay? All righty. Clean up my little mess that I've made. Now, one of the things with the sauce, right, if you really, really want, you know, to get down and dirty and just have some just spectacular sauce, sun dry your tomatoes, okay? And that takes it to a whole nother level. I ain't have time to do all that today because I got cheerings and I work. But sun dry your tomatoes and it just is amazing. What you do is, you know, you de-seed the tomatoes, put them on a tray, add a little olive oil, some fresh basil, and sit it in the sun for like 48 hours. And then bring it in. I mean, the flavor, it really enhances the flavor. That's the thing that I love about, you know, raw cuisine, raw vegan food. You can get so creative and do so many different things. It's just amazing. Okay, so now we're gonna top this with our freshly made tomato paste, our homemade tomato paste. And if you were not here in the beginning, the way that I made this is I just, I de-seeded the tomatoes, I blended them up, and then I cooked it on low heat and added, you know, cornstarch to make it thicken. I added my fresh basil to it. I added a pinch of sugar cane, some black pepper, and salt. And you can use as much or as little sauce as you desire, you know, whatever favors your palate. Okay, so the last thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to garnish the loaf with some fresh parsley. So I'm going to chop up the parsley, and then I'll add it on top of the loaf. Okay, so we're going to chop this up real fine. Smells so good. You know, that's the thing that I love about the produce here in Ghana. You know, it's real food. You can smell it, you know, and it has distinct smells, all of it, you know. And over there in the belly of the beast, everything just it's so bland, has no taste, no flavor, no smells, no water. And that's one of the things, because my children were not born in the States. So I remember the first time that I took my sons to the States, and they kept asking me, you know, why didn't the fruit have water in it? You know, because it was so dry. And you want to make sure that you're taking all of the stems out as well, because you just want the leaf of the parsley. Okay, so now I'm going to garnish my loaf. And what you're going to do, you're going to just sprinkle it, right? Okay, so we are done now with the loaf. Now, if you're preparing this at home, if you can prepare like a day in advance and then eat it, that's great, because you know, all of the seasonings, the flavors, it gets to sit and marinate. And so that following day, it just tastes even better. But if you can't, that's all right as well, because it is delicious nonetheless. Okay, so we are finished with our nut loaf. Who wants to be the brave person to try it? Okay. Now, I want you to give me your honest assessment, because I just want you to know I'm not thin-skinned. I lived in Israel for 19 years, and so I'm incapable of being offended. If you can live in Israel for that long, right, nothing can offend you. All righty? So if you say, oh my gosh, Niara, I don't like this, then that's quite okay. All righty? So can we get some forks? Do we have some forks for our guests? Okay, a spoon. If we don't have any forks, a spoon will suffice. Madasi. Okay, what's your name?
Kim.
Kim. Okay, Kim. Kim, now you said that you have eaten raw foods vegan before, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're familiar. What are some of the dishes that you've had?
I started raw in September, and I've been making raw tacos, raw meatballs, but I've never used almonds. I always use walnuts.
Okay.
So this is going to be something new for me.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I've made a walnut loaf before as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use walnuts to make a nut loaf if you want to.
Wow.
Personally, I like the flavor of the almond
Okay.
as opposed to the walnut when making the not meatloaf. So,
Okay.
bechavon, here's your little napkin.
Thank you. This is divine. Oh, it's delicious. Oh, stand up. Oh. I got all this stuff on me.
Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, I know everybody was afraid. So, Kim, you were kind of like the guinea pig for everyone.
Oh, okay. It's really delicious, and the sauce is just an added treat. Really good. I can taste the nutritional yeast in it.
Yeah.
It gives it a little cheesy flavor.
Yeah, and it gives it a little kick.
It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
I like it. Can I eat this other piece?
It's for you.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kim. Okay, anybody else? Any brave souls? Oh, you brought, oh, somebody, okay, so you came prepared. She said she brought her own fork. Get your fork. You were here when I did the carrot salad.
Yes,
Right.
I was.
Okay, so that's another raw food recipe.
Okay, thank you. This looks pretty. All the colors,
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
I
the
love
red,
food that has a lot of colors in
the
it.
purple. Okay, good. And the green. Yeah. The walnut makes it full. It's not like it's runny or anything like squashy in your mouth. It has this full consistency. You know? It's nice. Really good.
Okay, so that's 2 out of 2.
And
I'm
the
batting
sauce.
2 for 2.
The sauce is good. Can I have a little bit more?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Please.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, pleasure.
Very good.
You were here when I did the soup.
That was delicious. And just like this, it was easy, didn't take long. But like you said, let it set overnight. But it seems like everybody's enjoying it.
I mean, but that's with, any dish. You know what I'm saying? When you eat leftovers, it's always so much better that second day.
And it is colorful.
Which is always good, okay? You want to have a lot of color on your plate.
Now you have to tell me how to make crackers so I can make some crackers and put this on top of my crackers. This is delicious.
Okay, so that's 3 for 3.
And it's good for you.
Yes, there's nothing like delicious food that's good for you. Let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. Okay, now here's the real test, okay, you guys, because we have a real live carnivore. I always find it so funny when people who are not plant-based, when they're afraid to try. I never understand. I'm like, why are you afraid of some vegetables?
Maybe because
They'll eat a whole cow.
maybe because we haven't had such exciting recipes like this, and good ways to cook vegetables. So I'm excited to try it. So bring it on. Wow. Yes. Looks good. Consistency. So let's see. Oh my. Oh my, oh my.
Wow. Okay. So it's official. It is. The not meat loaf is a hit. You guys got to try it at home.
Lovely. I will do. I love the onions and the garlic mixed in. I'm going to try a bit with the sauce as well. Yeah. Tomato sauce, that paste is very good. Okay.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hip, hip, hooray for the almond not meat
From
loaf.
the meat eater. It's great. Thank you.
So you guys try this. If you did not tune in the beginning, we were making almond not meat loaf, which is made, it's a raw foods recipe. It's made from almonds. You soak your almonds overnight and then you let them dry out. They have to be completely dry. I cannot emphasize that enough. You won't get that loaf consistency if you don't let the nuts dry out, okay? And then also when you're blending them, you can't use a blender. You have to use either a seed grinder or a food processor. And then another thing, one more tip, you don't want to over process it because then you'll have almond butter, which is good as well, but it's not a loaf. So you can always, spread the almond butter on some cookies, some toast, make an almond butter and jelly sandwich. That's the other thing that you can do with the almond. And so had I continue to process it, right, that's what I would eventually get. I would get an almond butter. So that's something that you can do as well. Say you want to make the loaf and the almond butter. So you soak 2-3 cups of almonds. You let them all dry out. And then after you make your loaf, right, you can remove that batch and then blend some more almonds to make you an almond butter. So you can do so many different things with it. It's really versatile. It's great. And as I said, highly nutritional Once again, it's high in phosphorus, it's an antioxidant, it's high in copper, it's high in calcium, that's very important. A lot of times that's one of the main things that people ask those of us who are plant-based. Oh, where do you get your calcium? It's either where do you get your protein or where do you get your calcium? So when people ask you that, you can say, oh, almonds are very high in calcium. You know, everything that the body needs, right? It can be found in some type of plant form. So there's no reason to consume dead carcasses, you know. So it's good for your body, your mind, your spirit, you know, because when you're consuming these dead animals, you have to think about the ways that they, you know, were slaughtered, right? All of that anxiety and emotion that goes into slaughtering the animal, and you're ingesting that into your temple, because that's what your body is. Your body is your temple. Okay, so think about that. That's why as I said, we should consume living foods. Even if you are not ready for a raw foods diet, you should consume raw foods periodically to cleanse your temple. Once again, I am Niara of the Gourmet Vegan, a plant-based catering company here in Ghana. You can reach us on Instagram at _Gourmet Vegan, or you can find us on TikTok. And if you are local and you want to order something, you can reach me at 053-235-1396. Again, that's 053-235-1396. And if you missed the information, then all of the details will be in the description. Thank you so much for joining us once again at Health Watch Thursday at New Earth Health Foods in East Legon, Ghana.